memberikan LSP. Ke depan, setiap mahasiswa lulusan Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Unsur itu harus mempunyai sertifikasi kompetensi. Ini LSP ini yang nanti akan mempersiapkan untuk sertifikasi tersebut. Mudah-mudahan di tahun 2021 itu sudah berjalan. Beberapa pembangunan fisik selain lab terpadu, kita juga sedang merenovasi gedung kelas internasional agar sesuai dengan standar internasional. Saya rasa itu yang dapat kami sampaikan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dunia yang dulu bergerak begitu cepat, kini berputar dengan melambat. Seakan butuh jeda untuk beristirahat dari hiruk-pikuk yang membuat penat. Jarak yang hadir memisahkan raga, namun semoga ini menjadi usaha demi menyelamatkan jutaan jiwa. Banyak hal yang berubah, banyak hal yang tak lagi sama. Dari mudahnya bertatap muka hingga harus bercengkrama lewat layar kaca. Namun, ada satu hal yang tak akan pernah berubah, yaitu keinginan melawan rasa takut akan ketidakpastian demi tetap menggerakkan roda perekonomian. Inilah kami, jiwa-jiwa yang tak pernah pasrah akan keadaan.
Saya memiliki sebuah usaha vendor sewa sound system dan peralatan event yang sudah dirintis sejak 6 tahun yang lalu. Tapi, sejak COVID-19 mewabah di Indonesia pada awal Maret, bisnis saya berhenti total. Sejak pemerintah melarang kegiatan yang mengumpulkan massa dalam jumlah banyak, industri tempat saya mengais rezeki berhenti total memberikan pemasukan, meninggalkan kekhawatiran besar bagi saya dan 13 karyawan yang bekerja bersama saya. Di tengah ketidakpastian kondisi tersebut, saya terinspirasi dari seorang teman yang berdagang makanan di sosial media. Saya berpikir, dengan segala teknologi yang kini telah berkembang pesat, seharusnya orang-orang tidak perlu lagi khawatir untuk beraktivitas di tengah pandemi seperti sekarang. Teknologi telah banyak membantu kita untuk tetap mengindahkan anjuran untuk menjaga physical distancing. Misalnya masalah transaksi. Orang-orang dapat mulai membiasakan diri dengan transaksi non-tunai untuk pemesanan barang-barang kebutuhan melalui pemanfaatan ekonomi digital. Ini adalah salah satu bentuk usaha saya beradaptasi untuk tetap memastikan karyawan-karyawan saya mendapatkan penghasilan. Saya tahu ini berat karena saya juga mengalaminya, terutama bagi rekan-rekan pengusaha. Tapi, tolong teman-teman, jangan padamkan api semangat untuk terus berjuang, karena banyak sekali orang-orang yang bergantung kepada kita. Jika kita menyerah, maka kita juga memupuskan harapan mereka untuk tetap berpenghasilan.
Kini saatnya kita berjuang bersama, memanfaatkan peluang yang ada agar Indonesia tetap bisa melewati ini semua.
Excellencies, distinguished speaker, participant, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Creative Economic Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Haji Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, B.B.A, M.B.A, the Honorable Special Staff of Minister of Cooperatives and Small Medium Enterprises, Republic of Indonesia, Mr. M. Riza Damaniki, PhD, the Honorable the Assistant Governor of Bank Indonesia, Mr. Dwi Pranoto, the Honorable the Vice Rector for General and Financial Affairs of Jenderal Soedirman University, Professor Dr. Hipnu Nugroho SH.M.H, the Honorable Dean of Faculty Economic and Business, Jenderal Soedirman University, Professor Wiwi Rabiatul Adawiyah, M.Si, PhD, the Honorable Professor Tomomi Tamaki from Teikyo University, Japan, the Honorable Professor Pan Wei-hwa from National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, Taiwan, the Honorable Dr. Judit Katonane, Kovacs from University of Debrecen, Hungary, the Honorable Dr. Abdul Kholik SH.M.Si, the Deputy Chairman of First Commission, Regional Representative Council, Republic of Indonesia, the Honorable all participants of call for papers, and of course, all webinar participants. Good morning and welcome all of you in our event, the 11th Sustainable Competitive Advantage International Conference in this Tuesday, October 26, 2021. My name is Valen Hadiputri as a Master of Ceremony in this conference. This international conference is an annual event that held by Bank Indonesia Representative Purwokerto, Department of Management Faculty of Economic Business, Jenderal Soedirman University, and of course, Indonesian Economic Scholar Association. Supporting small-medium enterprises has become concern for Faculty of Economic and Business Jenderal Soedirman University as a part of faculty vision and mission. As an effort to support small-medium enterprises, since 2010, we hold event annually called International Conference Sustainable Competitive Advantage. This seminar followed by research result presentation in a call for paper event that attended by researchers from many universities and institutions. Seminar Sustainable Competitive Advantage, always presenting speakers that experts in relevant topic and share the new knowledge and information to the participants. This year, as one of our concern in supporting small-medium enterprises development by increasing its resilience, the Management Department Faculty of Economic Business, Jenderal Soedirman University, held 11 Sustainable Competitive Advantage activity in the form of international conference, colloquium, and call for papers with the topic of scaling up small-medium enterprises resilience in dealing with triple disruption. Before we start, the rundown of international conference will be read as follows as opening, welcoming speech, keynote speech, plenary session, and the last one is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, for a brief moment, we would like to invite all of you to rise and sing Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya. May all we rise.
Indonesia kebangsaan
You may be seated now. Excellencies, distinguished speaker, participant, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now please help me welcome to Head of Management Department of Faculty of Economic and Business, Jenderal Soedirman University, to give a welcoming speech. Please welcome Dr. Ratno Purnomo, S.A. M.Si.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Dr. Haji Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, B.B.A, M.B.A, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Republic of Indonesia. The Honorable Muhammad Rizka Damanik, PhD, Special Staff of Minister of Cooperatives and SMEs, Republic of Indonesia. The Honorable Mr. Dwi Pranoto, Assistant Governor of Bank Indonesia. The Honorable Profesor Dr. Hipnu Nugroho, M.Ha, Vice Rector of Universitas Jenderal Soedirman. The Honorable Profesor Wiwi Rabiatul Adawiyah, PhD, Dean of Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Jenderal Soedirman. Mr. Samsun Hadi, Head of Bank Indonesia, Representative Purwokerto. And the Honorable Speakers, Prof. Pan Wei Hua, National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, Taiwan. Prof. Tomomi Tamaki from Teikyo University, Japan. Dr. Judit Katonane Kovacs, University of Debrecen, Hungary. Dr. Abdul Kholik, S.A. M.Si, the Deputy Chairman of First Commission, Regional Representative Council, Republic of Indonesia. Participants and presenters of International Conference Sustainable Competitive Advantage 11. Praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the abundance of His grace and mercy, which has given us convenience and strength to hold the International Conference Sustainable Competitive Advantage 11 with the theme Scaling Up SME Resilience in Dealing with the Triple Disruption. 11 International Conference Sustainable Competitive Advantage is organized by Management Department, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Jenderal Soedirman, cooperating with Bank Indonesia. This event is an annual event since 2010, and in the last 2 years, it has been held at international level. This event, since 2010, has involved dozens of speakers and hundreds of scientific articles that have contributed intellectually to society. For this 11th edition, there are 124 articles and presenters. This conference is intercultural and interprofessional event that invites academics, researchers, practitioners, and university students who are interested in the field of economics, management, and business. The academic papers in this conference include empirical research papers, theoretical development papers, or conceptual insight that use different approaches. We attempt to bring various presenters with various experience, knowledge, and academic backgrounds to challenge the discussion to eventually result in intellectual discovery to achieve the purpose of this conference. The presenters at this conference came from Indonesia, Taiwan, Japan, and Hungary from various universities. International seminar activities aim to bridge the contribution of universities to stakeholders at the regional, national, and international scales for the development of local resources based on local wisdom. This conference is expected to provide understanding on strategies to improve the capacity of SMEs during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially the issue about triple disruption: digital disruption, millennial disruption, and pandemic disruption. We would like to thank various parties who have made this annual event success, in especially to Bank Indonesia, university and faculty leaders, speakers, presenters, and webinar participants. Not to forget, we would like to thank the organizing committee, led by Dr. Siti Zuleha Wulandari, and management student associations who have contributed energy, time, and talks for the organization of this event. We apologize if there are any shortcomings in the organization of this international webinar and conference. We expect suggestions from various parties to improve the implementation of activities in the future. Before we close this opening speech session, to Mr. Dwi Pranoto, Assistant Governor of Bank Indonesia, we all the committees and participants would like to congratulate to Mr. Dwi Pranoto for his birthday. Today is Mr. Dwi Pranoto's birthday. May Allah bless you with a healthy and happy life, and may your wishes come true. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. At last, welcome and enjoy international webinar and conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Ratno Purnomo, for the speech, and also, once again, a very happy birthday to Mr. Dwi Pranoto. May only the greatest thing comes to your way, lining the path for what will hopefully a wonderful year ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my deep pleasure to introduce Vice Rector for General and Financial Affairs, Professor Dr. Hipnu Nugroho SHMH, to deliver a speech, and afterward, we would like to request the Vice Rector of Jenderal Soedirman University to officially open the 11th Sustainable Competitive Advantage International Webinar Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Hipnu Nugroho.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, B.B.A. M.B.A, Special Staff of Minister of Cooperative and Small Medium Enterprise, Republic of Indonesia, M. Risa Damanik, PSD, Assistant Government of Bank Indonesia, Mr. Dwi Pranoto, Dean of the Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas Soedirman, Prof. Head of Bank Indonesia Representative Purwokerto, Mr. Samsun Hadi, Speakers, Profesor Tomomi, Tamaki, Teikyo, Universitas Jepang, Profesor Panweiwa, National Yunlin, University of Science and Technology Taiwan, Dr. Judit Katonane, Kovacs, Universitas of Debrecen, Hungary, Dr. Abdul Kholik, SHMH, Vice Chairman of Community and Deputy Chairperson, Regional Representative Council Republic of Indonesia, all participation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and best wishes for all of us. On behalf of Universitas Soedirman, I would like to welcome of the speakers and participants attending the 11th Sustainable Competitive Advanced International Conference, Colloquium, and Call Paper with the theme Scaling Up SME, Resilient and in Dealing with Triple Disruption. Ladies and gentlemen, during COVID-19 pandemic, most workplace in 2020-2021, all economic sector and institution including micro, small and medium enterprise, MSMEs, are also expressing in the effect. MSS are the conflict various difficult and colleagues during the pandemic outbreak. These are the 5 major colleagues that face MSs. Number 1, lacks operational cash flow. Almost 20% surveyed have less than a month or just a month of cash reserves. Number 2, low customer demand. Number 3, business closed due to state lockdown policy. 4, reduce opportunity to with new clients. Number 5, issue that entail changing business models and strategy and providing new product or service. Due to their innovative and opportunity-seeking nature, MSMEs can strong and rapid recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Innovative strategies, for example, use of digital technology can also help SMEs as the service and cope with the consequences of the pandemic on business transaction and cash flow problem. Ladies and gentlemen, Universitas Jenderal Soedirman has long experience as science and technology research, education, and community service. As higher education institution, UNSUD aspires to products quality with significant professional knowledge, innovative idea, high attitude, and excellent leadership skill to respond to technology, economic, and social change. Therefore, Universitas Jenderal Soedirman is deeply intends to support the scientific community to provide solution and responding of community, including in economic and related aspect towards smart society 4.0. We hope they will be ideas planning and active in this group challenge as MS during and after the pandemic of the forum. Once again, congratulations to all commit and participation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Excellencies, distinguished speaker, participant, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the opening remark given by the Assistant Governor of Bank Indonesia. Please welcome Mr. Dwi Pranoto.
Disruption that we experience at once, namely digital disruption, millennial disruption, and pandemic disruption, which is known as triple disruption. These three disruptions eroded the conventional ways, thus forcing us to adapt and shift our lifestyles. Broadly speaking, whoever sticks to the old way will lose in global competition. Michael Porter mentioned that the first fundamental determinant for a business to succeed is the attractiveness of the industry. Therefore, in responding to the dynamic, competitive, and diverse global market due to triple disruption, all industries, including SMEs, must have sustainable competitive advantage. There are challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, SMEs are the backbone of the Indonesian economy. Based on Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs data 2021, there are 64.5 million SMEs in Indonesia, or 99.9% of the total existing business units. SMEs have absorbed 97% of the total Indonesian workforce and have accounted more than 61% to the national GDP, which has a significant role. SMEs are an economic force that needs to be continuously strengthened and developed. Nonetheless, SMEs are vulnerable to triple disruption. The result of the latest Bank Indonesia survey presented that SMEs in all subsectors experience weakening performance during the pandemic. Based on their market orientation, 72.7% of non-export SMEs experienced a decline in demand, and 25.6% had problem with distribution. As for export-oriented SMEs, 57.4% recorded declining demand, while 28.4% experienced distribution problem. On the other hand, the COVID-19 pandemic must be recognized as accelerators of digital technology adoption. Public preference and acceptance of digital technology has persisted to grow rapidly since the pandemic occurred. We have experienced firsthand how businesses have drastically switched to using e-commerce platform to reach online customers. Based on Bank Indonesia data, Indonesia e-commerce transaction in the first semester of 2021 continued to grow by 63.4% to 186.7 trillion rupiah. The adoption of digital technology has also been utilized by SMEs. However, according to Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs, only limited numbers of SMEs were digital technology users, which is around 18.86% of the total existing SMEs. We do believe that SMEs with their various potential will remain to be the driving force of the national economy. Nevertheless, the level of adaptability of SMEs need to be strengthened with their 3E strategies, especially adjustment to run the business according to health protocols, agility in capturing changes of consumer behavior, and acceleration of business innovation. Furthermore, we realize that there are at least 3 challenges that must be overcome in promoting the competitive advantage of SMEs in the era of triple disruption. The first challenge is how to increase the capacity and capability of SMEs. The second is how to encourage the digitalization of SMEs. And the third is how to expand the shares of SMEs in the local and global value chains. Ladies and gentlemen, as a form of support to continue advancing the Indonesia SMEs, Bank Indonesia has established a number of strategies to respond to those challenges. In the first place, Bank Indonesia have implemented 3 pillars of SMEs development policies, namely corporatization, capacity, and financing. Through corporatization, SMEs are directed to the formal sectors to open up wider collaboration opportunities. The capacity of SMEs is also continuously improved through a series of coaching programs involving our 46 representative offices throughout the country. On the other hand, Bank Indonesia broadened the access of SMEs to financing through the development of information systems, as well as business matching facilitation with the financial institution. Secondly, to mitigate the impact of the digital disruption, Bank Indonesia launched the onboarding program, which linked SMEs into digital platform. Responding to the pandemic disruption, Bank Indonesia continues to promote the acquisition of KRIS, QR Indonesia standard by SMEs. To date, more than 11 million merchants have used KRIS as a means of payment. Moreover, in response to the dynamic of innovation, Bank Indonesia facilitated the replication of digital agriculture and export business success model by highlighting the potential of each region in Indonesia. On top of building digital mindset and creating sustainable competitive advantage, this effort is also aimed to attract the millennials to play a role in developing SMEs. Thirdly, Bank Indonesia continue to strive to increase the shares of SMEs in local value chains as well as global value chains through synergies across authorities and institutions, both at the national and regional levels. Bank Indonesia launched numerous streams of SMEs promotion activities. For instance, creating the SMEs e-catalogs, facilitating business matching with prospective buyers, and encouraging participation of SMEs in various trade promotion, even both at home and abroad, as well as fully supporting the government flagship program to fostering SMEs. Ladies and gentlemen, a Harvard Business Review article notes that despite the unprecedented challenges, many SMEs around the world have demonstrated remarkable resilience and capacity to reinvent themselves. Therefore, it is not too late for Indonesia SMEs to adopt practices that made those successful in such tumultuous environment. Of many initiatives and lessons learned thus far, there are three crucial keywords to further strengthen the role of Indonesian SMEs in local and global value chains. Those are sustainable innovation, integrated development, and digital partnership. Basically, SMEs need to create sustainable innovation and continue to spur their ability to produce high value-added products. SMEs should provide their uniqueness to increase business attractiveness and position their product in the market. Thus, SMEs are expected to fulfill the hollow in the middle phenomenon in local and global value chains. Afterward, SMEs development effort need to be integrated. Any program has to be intended to strengthen every aspect of the value chain, starting from standardization of products and production processes to the active involvement of takers, aggregators, and large businesses in building backward linkage with the SMEs. Lastly, digital partnership need to be constantly reinforced to promote the capacity of SMEs to run export directly. This can be resolved inter alia through the escalation of SMEs partnership with large businesses as an entry point for SMEs to participate in the global market, especially with the digital platform such as global e-commerce and trading company. As closing, ladies and gentlemen, we do believe that synergy and close cooperation between institutions are crucial to support SMEs in the triple disruption era. Hence, Bank Indonesia through its policy mix will continue to strengthen synergies with the government and related authorities. Finally, I do hope this seminar is fruitful for our endeavor in searching for innovative ideas, solutions, strategies for strengthening the SMEs amidst the triple disruption. I wish the seminar a great success. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now please help me welcome to our keynote speaker, given by the special staff of Minister of Cooperatives and SMEs, Republic of Indonesia. Please welcome Mr. M. Riza Damanik, PhD. Excellencies, distinguished speaker, participant, ladies and gentlemen, we are now continuing to the next session. Here with us, the keynote speaker, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Republic of Indonesia. Please welcome Dr. Haji Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, M.B.A.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings from Jakarta to all of you. It's an honor for me to be part of international seminar on scaling up SME resilience in dealing with triple disruptions, hosted by the great University of Jenderal Soedirman. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know that we are trying very hard to fight against the current pandemic of COVID-19. For more than 1.5 years until now, during the pandemic, we have to face the threat of triple disruptions, which is happening simultaneously: digital disruptions, millennial disruptions, and pandemic disruptions. Become challenges, especially for several companies which have big physical assets and heavy overhead loads. Some businesses like Pizza Hut, Matahari, and Giant, even state-owned enterprises like Bank BNI 46 and Garuda Indonesia are affected as well by these triple disruptions. The most obvious impact of pandemic disruptions on the tourism sector is the decreased number of foreign tourist visits and the decrease of national tourist visits, while the decrease of tourist visits also impacted on the decrease of foreign exchange and tourism labor. Based on the survey of Central Bureau of Statistics of Indonesia, or BPS, there are 7.15% or around 2,000 medium and small enterprises that have stopped their businesses due to the COVID-19 pandemics, while there are 34 out of 100 medium small enterprises that have reduced the price of their product. Even transportation companies are also impacted, and unfortunately, some of them even had to close their businesses. But there are pandemic winners, as the televisions and radio subsector and the applications and game developer subsectors that grew well during the pandemic. In 2020, the applications and game developer subsector increased 4.47%, while TV and radio subsectors increased 10.42%. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has developed digital disruptions and already changed the millennial lifestyle. I am sure if we could maximize the role of creative economy in generating medium-small enterprises through improving human resources as the main capital, we would be able to produce high-value products, open job vacancies, and moving the economy. Eventually, I would like to congratulate and send best wishes for all of the participants who involved and participate in this international seminar. I believe that this event will provide benefits and impacts on the improvement of tourism and creative economy sectors in Indonesia. May God bless all of us. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wonderful Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now please help me welcome to our keynote speaker given by special staff of Minister of Cooperative and Small Medium Enterprises, Republic of Indonesia, Mr. M.Si Damanik, PhD.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings to all of you and good day. First of all, I appreciate to the international seminar and call for paper that is held by FEB University of Soedirman. Hopefully this event can produce such as an excellent ideas and research as well, related to the development of the strong, adaptive, and innovative Indonesian cooperative and SMEs. The challenges we had is not easy, where we are facing three disruptions at once: the pandemic disruptions, the change activities pattern, and emerge a new norm. Demographic disruptions were mostly dominated by the millennials, Z, and Alpha generations. Approximately 64.69% of Indonesian populations. Technology disruptions or the Industrial Revolutions 4.0 with an easy access to technology. The pandemic hit MSMEs hard, but we are surely have to be grateful as the positive rate keep decreasing. The economy began to rise by growing 7.07% year on year in the second quarter of 2021. Poverty rate began to decline to 10.14% from the previous 10.19% in August 2020. At the same time, the unemployment rate became 6.66%, decreased 0.81% compared to August 2020. Purchasing Managers Index of 62.2 in September 2020, back to the expansion zones after 2 months of contractions. Demographic disruptions can be a great opportunity for future entrepreneur growth. A study from Semeru noted that 70% of Indonesian youth are interested in the becoming entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, there are still new young people who have an entrepreneur spirit, many of whom are entrepreneurs who appear out of necessity or forced by circumstances. In this case, universities, one of which is Universitas Jenderal Soedirman, have an important role in advancing entrepreneurship, becoming a business incubator institutions with research prioritizing entrepreneurship assistance and training, and the creations of technological innovations. During this pandemic, an additional of 8.4 million MSEs on board to the digital ecosystem, to 16.4 million from the target of 30 million SMEs in 2024. As an effort to accelerate business recovery and create SME resilience, business model improvement were carried out with the conditions of micro enterprises that reach 90.62% of the total MSEs actors. Small, full of are certainly in their production chains. They must begin together in cooperative so that they become economically skilled and innovative. Affirmations in the expansions of access and finance scheme are given. In the future, the CUR program without collateral will be increased from the current maximum of only 60 million rupiah to a maximum of 100 million rupiah. Maximum credit limit from 100 million rupiah to 20 billion rupiah. And the ratio of bank credit for SMEs to be increased from the current maximum of 20% to more than 30% in 2024 in the future. Once again, congratulations for the international seminar and call for paper FEB University of Soedirman. Have a fruitful discussions. Hopefully, it can be generate new ideas to give birth to superior entrepreneurs and MSE more competitive in the future. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we're coming up to the main program, plenary session, who will be led by our moderator, Dr. Siti Zulaha Wulandari, SMSE. But first of all, allow me to introduce her. Dr. Siti Zulaha Wulandari, SMSE. Her majority is in Human Resources Management and also certified by BNSP licensed as SMEs consultant. Please welcome Dr. Siti Wulandari. Please welcome Dr. Siti Zulaha Wulandari.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Best wishes for all of us. First of all, I would like to express our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, because only with His permission we can join here together to follow this event. I'm Siti Zulaika Wulandari, that will be the moderator for this plenary session. I'm very pleased here and welcome all participants for this special yearly event organized by Department of Management of Faculty of Economic and Business, Jenderal Soedirman University, in collaboration with Bank Indonesia, Representative Office in Purwokerto. Dear all participants, this is the 11th International Webinar, Sustainable Competitive Advantage. And we have an interesting topic to discuss today. That is scaling up small medium enterprises, resiliences in dealing with triple disruption. I have received questions many times asking me about what is actually triple disruption. Maybe this is such a new term for us, but actually in these last 2 years, we are very familiar with this triple disruption. Those are millennial, digital, and COVID-19 pandemic disruption that happen simultaneously. While discussing about small medium enterprises, we know much that small medium enterprises is the backbone of the economic growth in almost all countries all over the world, specifically in developing countries like Indonesia. And this business sector is very vulnerable and very affected by this triple disruption. Dear participants, exactly disruption become an inevitable thing in the present. So this webinar is expected to provide understanding on strategies to improve the capacity of small medium enterprises, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic. And especially the issue is about triple disruption. For that reason, we have our excellent speakers from various backgrounds and expertise related to our topic that we will discuss it from many perspectives, from strategy, human and social capital, and government policy as well. We will explore ideas from many perspectives to be able to provide the best and innovative strategies in restoring and strengthening small medium enterprises in the face of this disruption. Okay, before we listen our great presentation of the speakers, allow me to inform you that the session will be divided into the presentation and question and answer session. The presentation of each speaker will take about 25 minutes, and after all speakers finish delivering the presentation, we are going to continue with question and answer session. I will invite questions from the participants, and you can drop the question in the chat room via Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin this panel session by informing you the curriculum vitae of our first speaker. Maybe the host can show me. Okay, thank you. So I will present the brief curriculum vitae of our first speaker. He is Dr. Pan Wehua. He received his PhD or doctoral degree from University of Birmingham, and also follow a case training program in University of Harvard, United States. Professor Pan has many positions in National Yunlin University of Science and Technology as the Chairman of Business Department, the Dean of International Affairs, and the Director of Continuing Education Center. He also has some experiences outside Yunlin University as visiting professor in Institut Teknologi 10 November Indonesia, National Saratov Technical University Russia, and Vietnam Commerce University Vietnam. And also he brings duty as external consultant of Alibaba Taiwan, Chair of National Vocational Business Skills Competition Taiwan. With his research interests in international business strategic management, he has many publications as a newspaper columnist For 8 years, he wrote more than 100 columns. Oh, that's wonderful, of course, and published more than 60 various academic papers. Well, all participants, let's help me to welcome, with warm welcome, to our first speaker, Prof. Pan Wehua. Good morning, Prof. Pan. How are you?
Yes, fine.
Okay.
Can you allow me to control the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Thank you very much for providing time in your busy schedule to share with us your knowledge and expertise today in our international webinar. Well, you have about 25 minutes to deliver your presentation. And after all the speakers deliver the materials, we will continue with question and answer. Okay, audience and participants, Prof. Pan Wehua will deliver the topic about improving system resilience for small medium enterprises under pandemic. So, Prof. Pan, the screen is yours.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can, Professor.
Okay. Okay, now I will begin my speech. Okay, how to improving the system resilience for the small medium-sized enterprises under the pandemic. First of all, I will talking about the Taiwan's case. Then I will suggest some my opinions, okay, towards the Indonesian medium and the small enterprises. Okay, I used to teach in some Indonesian university, for example, like the ITS for a very short period of time. It was very wonderful experiences. Okay, this is the photo I took, and when I was the first time when I was visiting Aceh, Indonesia. Okay, it was my first visit about 10 years ago. And then, of course, I also visited some very interesting, the wonder of the world in Indonesia. Okay, let's begin with some very interesting topics about the system resilience and the pandemic disruptions. Okay, but of course, in Indonesia, the small medium-sized enterprises, they are facing the triple disruptions. But in Taiwan, the situation is quite different. And because I think every countries, we have a different the contextual problems. Okay, so we are tackling different difficulties. Okay, so I will talking about Taiwan first, and also over according to my expertise. Okay, to Indonesian medium enterprises, small medium-sized enterprises. Okay, the system resilience is the ability of the organizational hardware and the software systems to mitigate the severity and the likelihood of the failure or losses, or to adapt to the changing conditions and to respond appropriately after the fact. Okay, so the definitions of the resilience has been offered, such as robustness, fault tolerance, flexibility, survivability, and agility, among others. Okay, this is a very interesting chart. Okay, that we have the disruptions. Okay, we have disruptions. Okay, but we have A, B, C, three different scenario. Okay, the B, okay, they can fully recover. But A, after the disruptions, they recover, but they are not fully recovered. Okay, the C is fully recovered and they become even better. Okay, I think for the business academics, we are hoping that the businesses, okay, we all can follow the C trajectory. Okay, and how can we have a better system resilience? Okay, I think we need to have some system engineering principles. Okay, and also developing some beneficial paradigms. Okay, because for a lot of the companies, they don't know how to benchmark the best. Okay, so we have to developing, okay, or to follow the benchmarks in the industries. Okay, and of course, some necessary capabilities, okay, is required, okay, to cope with the disruptions, okay. So, you know, the better system resilience actually require a combinations of the capabilities and practices and the infrastructures, okay, forms the basics of the framework of the system resilience, okay. You know, most of the time after the pandemic, Taiwanese enterprises, we are suffering the most is the supply chain management problems, okay. Particularly because of Taiwan companies, a lot of them, they are born globally. And a lot of them, we are already very digitalized, okay. So the main problem is that because of the pandemic, the supply chain disruptions, and particularly the international supply chain management issues, okay, is the key problems facing by the Taiwanese businesses, okay. As you can see, the typologies of the foreign value added that embedded by in a bilateral manufacture export, okay, in year 2015, you can see there is 3 major manufacture center in the world, okay, or we can say the manufacture value added center in the world, okay. They are United States, Germany, and China, okay. The China now is a little bit bigger than Germany and become the largest manufacturer value added center in the world, okay. But you can see among the China's, okay, the China's biggest trading partner is with Chinese Taipei. This is Taiwan, okay. So Taiwan is holding a very important strategic positions in the upper streams to provide the Chinese manufacturer the upstream components, etc. Okay, so you know when China become the largest manufacturers export engines in the world, okay, Taiwan play important parts, okay, in this, okay, the world export engines, okay, and also we can see here, and also you can see the Indonesia, okay, it's a bilateral, even though Indonesia is a very big country, but it's a bilateral trade, okay, linkages with China is still substantially weaker compared to Taiwan's, okay. Even the Korea, okay, the Korea has a very strong linkages with Vietnam and the Philippines, and the Korea also form a part of the China supply chain, okay, and but still Korea cannot be in comparison with Taiwan's important role, okay, to China. Right? So does Japan and others, okay. So so we can see actually 80% of the Taiwan FDI, okay, destinations is in mainland China, okay, is in Chinese mainland, okay. And while in the other hand, the most of European countries, okay, they are the supply chain systems for the German firms, okay, for the German firms. Okay, so in the recent trends of the global value chain, okay, we see something even before the pandemic, okay. You know that because of the global value chain, they want better efficiency and the more productivities, okay. So actually the proportions of the domestic productions and the traditional trade productions actually is increased, okay. Why is that? Because of the global value chain, no matter it is a simple global value chain or the so-called complex global value chain, okay, because it's too complicated and it's very too long, the supply chain, okay. Once it is in a very long supply chain, you have a lot of the issues. For example, like you have to crossing the borders, okay, crossing the borders, okay. So that cause some kind of the supply chain management problems, okay, like the timely delivery, and of course some Chinese companies, okay, Taiwanese companies, we prefer to have the industry clusters to work very closely, to working together, okay. So you know for the manufacturers, okay, I think there is a very consistent, the proportions of the traditional trade productions and the domestic productions are all increased, okay. Almost all forms of the global value chain related productions, okay, has been steadily fallen, okay, steadily fallen. That is even happens before the pandemic, okay. Then it's come to the pandemic disruptions, okay. You know what kind of pandemic disruptions, okay, the most of the people you can think of, okay. I think the pandemic disruptions, they are crises, okay, and also they are risks, okay, and also they are emergencies, okay. Particularly during the pandemic disruptions, border disclosures, okay, and the safety and hygiene issues, okay, and the supply chain management problems, okay, actually they are the key problem facing by the Taiwanese enterprises, okay. And more interestingly, okay, when you are in Indonesia, you say the so-called triple disruptions. In Taiwan, most of firms we are facing the dual disruptions. Okay, they are the Sino-US trade war and the coronavirus disruptions. Okay, and we are mainly facing these two. Okay, are almost equal. Okay, to the pandemics disruptions. Okay, so even before the pandemics, okay, we already suffering by the Sino-US trade war. As I mentioned that Taiwan is the most important trading partners, okay, upstream suppliers to China. Okay, so that's the problem for that. Okay, but however, and we all hope that the pandemic, okay, when going to the year 2001, okay, the transmission of the pandemic can largely be calmed down. But in fact, in some major countries, okay, like the Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, okay, Vietnam, okay, we are suffering the second or even the third wave of the pandemic disruptions. Okay, so it is still an ongoing issues for most of the enterprises. Okay, so if we combine two of the external impacts, okay, together, so we can see what kind of the hits, okay, what kind of the impacts, okay, happens to the Taiwanese firms. Okay, first of all, the Sino-US trade frictions and the so-called decoupling, the supply chain decoupling, it will hit the so-called China-centered supply chain. Okay, you know, in fact, the 7 out of the top 10 exporters in China were Taiwanese firms. Okay, so the top 100 Chinese exporters, okay, among them they are about 33, 1/3 of them are Taiwanese firms. Okay, so the China-centered supply chain and the company with a very high China dependency, they are largely get hit. Okay, because of the 80% of listed firms, okay, they are invested in Chinese mainland. Okay, because of the culture and the geographical proximity. And also the coronavirus, it brings the so-called social distance. Okay, it also hit the cross-border transactions. It particularly hit those, okay, with the long and the cross-border supply chain. Okay, and also, of course, some service-related and domestic firms, they have a so-called social distance, the ban. So therefore, the tourism, retailing, restaurant, those industries, they are also suffering the most. Okay, however, it's very interesting. Even though they have impacts, but actually some companies, they just benefited from this. Okay, because Taiwan is a major the telecom and the computer manufacturer, the country in the world. Okay, so because of the e-commerce and because of the online the transactions and online meetings, okay, become popular. Okay, a lot of the Taiwanese hardware manufacturers actually they are benefited okay, from this. Okay. We say the Sino-US trade war are likely to be the mid to long-term impacts, and the coronavirus, on the other hand, will likely to be short to mid-terms impacts. Okay. So the pandemics, for the management perspective, okay, we have some challenges in terms of the management perspective. Okay. The first one is in the supply chain, particularly the so-called bullwhip effects. Okay, so it is the so-called backward chain reactions to the upstream supply chain issues. Okay, for example, the Adidas, okay, withdraw the orders from the Formosa Textile corporations, okay, which is very close to our university. And then Formosa University then further impacts its upstream suppliers. Okay. So Adidas may cut 25% of the orders, and then Formosa may cut 50% of its order from its upstreams. Okay, so through the supply chains, the bullwhip effects, actually the impacts was enlarged. Okay, and the second is the crisis management in finance issues. Okay, particularly the firms during the crisis, we have to thinking about the cash and the cash management, and retain any management issues. Okay, for example, you have to thinking about the withholding payments, or you have to divestments, okay, for cash, or more cautious, okay, for the incoming opportunities. Okay, and also of course, different governments, they offer different relief programs, okay, from the states. Okay, so the small and medium enterprises must make best use of those relief programs. Okay, to alleviate, okay, the impact. And another one is how can we share the impacts and the cost. Okay, that is very particular advantages for the Taiwanese firms, particularly because we have a systems called the central satellite systems. It is a kind of industrial cooperation and synergy systems in Taiwanese industry organizations. Okay, it is something like a supply chain, but we tend to have a much longer, okay, relationship, okay, based on the long-term cooperations and the synergies, okay, together. Okay, so the collective observations through this partnership is a very effective way, okay, to overcome, okay, the external impacts, okay, particularly from the pandemics and the Sino-US trade wars. As I say, because of the bullwhip effects, okay, so maybe you have already noticed, okay, recently the container transportations, okay, they have some the problem in the soaring flights. Okay, also you see the rampant out of the stock crisis. Okay, everywhere, from the Europe, okay, to the United States. Okay, you can see the empty shelf in the supermarkets. Okay, so actually it is a kind of the supply chain management problems happening. Okay, and so actually. The shortages plus the quantitative easings, okay, we're going to have a very high inflation risks, okay, for the incoming winters and the incoming years. Okay, so particularly for the small and medium-sized enterprises, we have to really think about how to cope with the higher inflation risks, okay, in the incoming future. Okay. So this is a simple chart for the bullwhip effects. Okay, so we have the pandemic control and the Sino-US trade war. Okay, and altogether, okay, the geographical diversifications, the relocations of the supply chain or decentralization of the supply chains, okay, became an important challenges for the Taiwanese firms. Okay. Okay. So therefore, there is a paradigm shift, okay, nowadays, okay, because those companies, because they have the better arrangements. They recovering better. Okay, so they have a better system resilience. Okay, so they become the paradigms. Okay, in the industries. Okay. Okay, so they are the decentralization in the supply chain and the safety stocks rather than the just-in-time issues. And also you need to have the so-called multiple suppliers in order to lower down the risks. Okay. Okay. So, you know, the strategic countermeasures to the Sino-US trade frictions for the traditional industries, they try to localizations in China, or they try to relocations. Okay, for example, they are moving towards the Southeast Asia. So that's why we call it as a China plus one policies. Okay, China plus one means you need to have a China as your major production center, but you need to have another one outside China. Okay, another one for the high-tech industries. Okay, you know that we are facing two kind of the contradiction trend. One is China's de-Americanizations. Okay, China tried to exclude American firms, okay, from its supply chain, and Americans try to de-Chinalizations. Okay, okay. So we are stuck in the middle. Okay, so most of the high-tech firms, you need to have two different the sub companies. Okay, of subsidiaries. One is the Americanizations. One is the de-Chinalizations. Okay, so they are targeting at the different the markets. Okay, and also reinvestments and the thinking about how to localize in China is another possible way to do so. Okay, and also for the coronavirus disruptions, and how can we decentralize our supply chain, and how can we invest in more in the so-called smart productions? Okay, because during the coronavirus disruptions, a lot of firms, if they are the so-called the labor intensive firms, largely they are impacted the most. Okay, because of the safety issues and hygiene issues. And also the digitalization in commerce is also important. Okay, and also the crisis management, as I already mentioned. Okay, so there is a paradigm shift, like the shorter supply chain, decentralizations, and the safety productions. Okay, because time is limited, so I will go through my suggestions to the Indonesian firms. Okay, you know, this is a digitalization in the supply chain. Okay, digitalizations actually cost a lot of money. Okay. So we need to have a plan, source, make, and the delivery. And during this the period of time, okay, a lot of firms, they need to invest a lot, okay, in their hardware and the software and the human resource and the trainings. It is not easy for the small and medium-sized enterprises. Okay, so how can we the Indonesian small medium-sized enterprises can do for that? Okay, so I have some thinking about it. Okay. There is a common problems facing by the Indonesian micro and small medium-sized enterprises. Okay, they are a lot of them listed as the follows. Okay, I study academic literature. Okay, they talking about this. Okay, but in short, they are the three main category. Okay, the first one is the resource constraint issues. Okay, like the small medium-sized enterprises, they have capital shortages, the technological shortages, marketing capability shortages, etc. And the second is the technological diffusion problems. Okay, because once they have technologies, some companies, but how can you diffuse your technologies to your supply chain? Okay, to increase the productivities. And how about can they offer the better training programs? Okay, and the best practices. Okay, for those micro and small medium-sized enterprises, and also the networking and the channeling problems. Okay, for example, like the low quality of the infrastructure, etc. Okay, you know, the digital economies, as I say, it is you have to invest a lot of IoT, additive manufacture, etc. It costs money. and so cloud technology, it costs money, okay, and also it's difficult, okay. So how can the small medium-sized enterprises, okay, in the Indonesia, how can they do it? Okay, in the previous I just mentioned, okay, a digitalized or chained, okay, supply chain management actually polarize those not being chained, okay, particularly for those smaller ones, okay, because their capability and the technologies and their hardware equipments is not able to chain with those advanced firms, okay. Second is the government, banking, industrial organizations, okay, or e-platform, what kind of help they can offer, okay. You know, I just heard about the very good speech from the Bank of the Indonesia, and yes, I realized that the Indonesian Central Bank, they are doing a lot of efforts try to help the small medium-sized enterprises, okay. But the problem is that there is always the information asymmetry problems for the governments and for the banks, okay. And so from my viewpoint, the things that the best way to help them is through the industrial organizations and the e-platforms. I will introduce the case about the Alibaba later, okay? Because as I say, I work for Alibaba for a very short period of time, okay? So they can actually, I gain some understanding and knowledge about how Alibaba can help the local small, medium-sized enterprises. And actually, Alibaba, the e-platform, helped China to eliminate the poverties, okay, very successfully, okay, because it helped the SMEs to unlimited market space, help digitalizations. They offer the cloud computing. They provide the free training courses. They provide the skill transactions. And also they do the financing, okay, to the small enterprises. And if they see there are some small SMEs, they also investing money in those SMEs, okay? So they are also doing the investment and banking businesses, okay? And also they are also crediting the SME. They give them the crediting score. It helps some SMEs when they have a high credit scores, okay? They can perform much better and much easier to be seen by the potential buyers, okay? So you know how Alibaba can help the SME differently. Traditionally, we think the digital economy, the version 1 is a trend, digitalized, polarized, like the Apple, like the TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturer. They are very successful chain manufacturer, okay? But once if you are the small and medium-sized enterprises, you don't have the resources to chain, to digitalize, okay? You are not able to be chained and digitalized. So you are polarized, okay? But now the e-platform, because they are platform, they offer open to everyone, okay? They also open the data computings for the smart intelligence for the SMEs. So actually it is an inclusive, okay, inclusive way, okay, to help the SMEs, okay? So you know Alibaba, they say once they say they have created distractions and destructive creations. We hope that the e-platforms, if the countries can manage the e-platform well, okay, then it will be created distractions, okay. But of course, if the e-platform is unregulated, okay, it will become the destructive creations and even become the monopoly to harm the competitions and to harm the small and medium-sized enterprises, okay. So in the finals, I would like to have my conclusion remarks for this, okay. So you can see now actually, we see there is opportunity for Indonesian firms, okay, because there is a new trend on the global supply chain, even before the pandemics, okay. This is the so-called offshore productions to nearshore to the reshore productions, okay. Because Indonesia is a big country, okay, you have a very big domestic markets, okay. So it is very optimistic that see a lot of the foreign investors, they are willing to set up and moving their supply chain to Indonesia. Okay, and once they are in Indonesia, they will try to localize their supply chain in Indonesia. They will outsourcing in Indonesia. Okay, so therefore, there is a very optimistic opportunity for the Indonesian supply chain, particularly for the small, medium-sized enterprises. Okay. However, localizations, okay, and those industrial 4.0, version 4.0, okay, they also cast the challenges for Indonesian firms. Okay, you know, if you like to work with those the leading companies, like to become their supply chains, okay, you need to have a lot of the investment in the human capitals and in the technologies, okay, to be able to link or to change with those supply chains, okay. And also, okay, we are have to tackle with those impacts and the paradigm shift, okay, no matter in Taiwan or in Indonesia, it is the so-called supply chain decentralizations, okay, supply chain decentralization. A lot of firms, they need to have not just for one suppliers, they need to have multiple suppliers. Once they need multiple suppliers, actually it offers more opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises to be able to join in their supply chain. Okay, so that is what the meanings of the decentralizations, and it's also the opportunity of the decentralizations is about. Okay, and also we need to a little bit shifting from the so-called safety stocks. Okay, safety stock just in time to so-called safety stocks and multiple suppliers. Okay, so during these processes, I see there is more opportunities rather than threats. Okay, for small medium-sized enterprises in Indonesia. Okay, we hoped both of us can doing it very well. Okay, and so therefore, Indonesia opportunity in global supply chain is to developing localized supply chain. You know that it is a kind of a so-called reverse internationalizations. Okay, once the company they are moving to Indonesia, okay, it is have the so-called resource transfer effects. Okay, and we can work with those internationally leading firms, multinational enterprises. And also we can rechain with those leading firms, okay, because of the rechain with those leading multinational enterprises, we can have the good diffusions of knowledges, diffusions of technologies, and diffusion of the best practices as well, okay. But of course, even for those very small enterprises, if you really have a difficulty in investing in those technologies, maybe you can really think about the e-platforms, okay, methods, okay, because the e-platform is also providing the resource transfer and the diffusions of the knowledges, and also helping you to lower down the thresholds of the capability for the futures, okay. Okay, so you know the better system resilience, actually, as I say, they can help you to overcome resource constraint, technology diffusions, and networking and the channel problems. Okay, so we hope everyone we here Taiwan or Indonesia, we also can doing it very well. Okay, thank you very much. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. May peace rest upon everyone. Thank you very much.
Prof. Pan for giving us a delightful presentation and your point of view about how we can help small medium enterprises to scale up their resiliencies. And you explain a lot about supply chain management. And your presentation is very interesting, and for your information, actually there are some questions dropped in the chat room, but we kindly ask you to be patient to waiting to answer the question, because we have to finish all the speaker presentation first.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So have a nice seat in waiting. Well, participants, moving right along, it is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the next speaker. She is Dr. Judit Katonane Kovacs, will present human and social resources to scale up MSMEs resilience. And prior to her presentation, I will present her brief curriculum vitae first. Okay, Dr. Judit Katonane Kovacs is lecturer in University of Debrecen. She got his Doctor of Philosophy in Social Sciences, and she holds certificates as coach, EMCC accredited coach at senior practitioner level, and conversation that inspire our coaching, learning, leadership, and change. Her experience in work become associate professor from September 2020 and present, and Debrecen founder and coach again Debrecen from September 2014 and present. With responsibility, give space for yourself. And I would like to greetings Dr. Judit. Good morning, Dr. Judit.
Good morning.
Okay, maybe
Thank you for
it's
the
very
invitation.
Yeah, okay, very early in this morning, in Hungary time. Okay, I do appreciate because you are willing to join us in this early morning in your Hungary time. And I would like to ask you to deliver your presentation for about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. Okay, and would you like to share your own PowerPoint, or we let the operator to help you to share the screen?
Well, let's try. I worked well. You will share it, but I also can try. So let's see if it's work, and then, yeah.
Okay, okay, Dr. Judit. Yeah, the screen is yours.
Okay. So thank you for the possibility, for the invitation. Yes, I'm from Hungary. It's a small country in Europe. We have 10 million inhabitants. So from this 8 billion, it's an honor to be here and share my learnings. And I hope this will be also useful for you. As you had heard, I am really curious about human and social resources. So I will focus my presentation to this topic, and I really believe that these sources are the ones which can help SMEs in scaling up resilience. So the outline of my presentation, I will start with some bad news, but end with good news. That's my plan for you. So first, I will talk about challenges above the sea disruptions, which were already mentioned today more times. Then I will give some understanding of human and social capital. So how we can define these capitals and why these capitals are important in resilience. And I also will turn why we have to focus on medium and micro, small and medium enterprises. Also try to give idea about the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And finally, I took out 3 resilience factors from a human and social perspective, which I hope can be useful for the future. So as I mentioned, above the 3 disruptions, we have more challenges on global level. I like to refer to the work of Otto Scharmer and refer to the U theory they call attention to. So the challenges we face, there is this ecological divide. So we lost the connection with nature. We live on ecological footprint 1.5 planets. So for example, already this year, or we are in October 2021, but we are using the resources of next year. So that's something we have to take in mind when thinking about the future, how we can be sustainable. We're not just divided ourselves from nature, but we also have this social divide. So we lost our connection with others. 2.5 billion people on our planet subsist of less than $2 per day. And the last divide is the spiritual divide, how they call it, that we lost also the connection with ourselves. And there is an increasing level of burnouts and depression. So these are the bad news. But as I mentioned, I try to finish with good ones, that we have answers to these questions and we can change these challenges. I already mentioned this dimension of systems thinking. So we have three dimensions: the environmental, the social, and economical. And I think that how we have to change our mindset is that we have these three dimensions as relation showed on the picture. So social dimension is part of environmental dimension, and economical dimension is part of social dimension. Even if we think about the time frame of these dimensions, so if we go back to 1,000 years, we have only environment and nature. And then if we look on society as a 24 hours, then we are coming in the system in the last hour. And we created the third, the economical dimension. So I think one thing we have to change mindset is that we have to keep in mind that we are part of a system. And if we look on the resources of these three dimensions, then we can see that the resources in the environmental dimension, like soil, fauna, flora, water, wind, and sun, so these are the resources which we can deal on. So this is the 1.5 planet we are using already. Then we have the social dimensions, and that, as I mentioned, I will focus on the resources linked to this dimension, the human and social capital. And I call the economic dimension as artificial resources inside. Why it's artificial? Because art we have created. And we have financial capital, physical capital, information, and technology. And it's interesting, for example, that data is becoming a more and more important resource in this artificial resource group. And in my understanding, how we have to deal with these dimensions, we have to learn from the environmental dimension. For example, I read an article about how nature works, and learning from nature, what we can learn is that it's more a horizontal type of connection. So not a top-down and bottom-up, what we usually use in our organizations theory, but it's more a kind of outside in and inside out. So it's much more horizontal relation. And I think it's already an interesting learning. So can we change our mindset and think about this horizontal relations? Or if I give you 1 minute, and if we think about ourselves like a tree and a fruit tree, and usually fruit trees have one kind of fruit. So apple tree, you cannot get orange and peach and apple from one tree, just apple. So if you get 1 minute and think about your strengths, so what is your strength? What is your fruit? If we use fruit as a symbol for your strengths, and think about that, how the strengths of you can give fruit for not just for yourself, but for the others. So it can be also learning that we can think about ourselves, that we, as a part of the nature, and we have fruits, then how we give these fruits to the others, not just for ourselves. So that's a learning from the environment. And based on these learnings, then the question is how we build up our economical system, the economical dimension, which is an art. And when talking with one of my students, she had this kind of thinking that if we don't care, then this third dimension, which is part of the bigger one, can come out and be the biggest dimension. So I think that's something we have to take in mind, especially when we talk about artificial intelligence, because the intelligence of artificial intelligence, the IQ maybe can increase quicker than the human. So that's something we have to take in mind. So going to the capital, as I mentioned, I will focus on why it's important. It was already mentioned from our earlier speakers that the human capital is a very important resource and we have to invest in. But why we have to invest? So if we look on global wealth, then we notice that human capital is the largest component of global wealth, accounting for 2/3 of total wealth globally. So if this is behind the global wealth in 2/3, then it's already a message that yes, human capital is a capital which we need to invest. So we need to invest in people for wealth creation and future income generation. And for example, if I think about myself and how I use my income, I noticed in the last days that one of my biggest invests is always in myself. So I really like to invest in my own learning, in my field of interest. And I noticed that the more I invest, I can increase my income with my investment. If we go the definition of human capital, this is the definition of OECD. They define human capital as knowledge, skills, competencies, and attributes embodied in individuals that facilitate the creation of personal, social, and economic well-being. Usually, when we think about investment in human capital, it focuses on the knowledge, but also these attitudes and behavior issues are also very important. So when I'm teaching and working with students at university, I always have these two important issues, that learning the word, so you have to learn the word and understand how it operates, but you also have to learn yourself and understand your own behavior, your own strengths, because that's, you can be competitive with your strengths and not your weaknesses. So that's, I think, also very important when we invest in human capital. Going to the other capital, to the social capital, there are different definitions. First, when I met along my PhD, and that was also the outcome of my research work, because my PhD was linked to rural development and agri-environmental issues. And the outcome of my work was that even agri-environmental issues are related to human thinking and how we work together. And then the definition for me was trust, building relations, and keeping norms. And talking with Finnish colleagues, I noticed that maybe where it starts, it's transparency. So the more transparent we are, the better we can trust and build relation. And also it helps in keeping norms. If we go down to individual level, it somehow brings vulnerability. So usually we are not transparent because we are afraid to be vulnerable. But if we know the operations of enterprises, then if we have data about the fiscal or monetary policy, then maybe this transparency helps us to understand the operations, and it creates trust. And we will also see that trust is a very important element. If you are entrepreneurs, I think I don't have to tell more about this to you, because you know that if there is no trust, then the time is much more you need to make a business, or it's much more costly because there are much more administration behind. and also building relationships. So how you build partnership with your supply chain actors, it's also important in the process. And if we think about social capital, culture is also mentioned here. When we define culture, we say it's based on norms and behaviors. So these are also elements of this capital. Why small and medium enterprises? So why we focus on these enterprises? If we look on these data, we notice that we live in a market economy. So the GDP in all parts of the world, but more high income, the more proportion of SMEs. So it's come from small and medium enterprises. And I also read in your call that even it's also true in Indonesia, that 61.1% of GDP is related to small and medium enterprises. So these actors are very important. And I think it also gives answer to resilience, because when we have more actors, so when the economy is more diverse, then if somebody is bankrupt, then we have still a lot of actors. If it's a more kind of monopoly system, then if we have one big actor and we lost the big one, then there is a much bigger gap. So I think this diversity helps to give answers to the challenges we face. And although we talked about sometimes best practice, but we live now a world where prototyping is much more important, because we live in a complex system, and in complex system, you don't have answers to each challenges. So you try and you have reflection and learning, and then if it works, you keep it. If it's not worked, then you try again. And I think SMEs, because of their size, sometimes are more ready to prototype and give answer to the changes. When we look on the entrepreneurship ecosystem, you have an ecosystem in each region. The difference is how strong the ecosystem in one or another. With one of my students, she looked on the literature behind the entrepreneurship ecosystem and checked which are the most often reflected factors. And even this literature, human capital, was the most often mentioned factor of entrepreneurship ecosystem. And also when we look on culture, it links to social capital, the culture, the social norms. So these two factors are also important from the ecosystem issue. If we look on the definition of Kaufman Foundation for the elements of entrepreneurship ecosystem, we also have this kind of understanding that these human and social factors play the most important role. So entrepreneurs who aspire to start and grow new businesses, and the people who support entrepreneurs, the talent that can help companies grow. So the more you invest in your employees, the more you communicate with them, and also a growth factor in your enterprise. People and institutions with knowledge and resources, individuals and institutions that serve as champion and converse entrepreneurs and ecosystem. Also, there have to be access point, so where we can participate. For example, in my own city, we started, it's from my grandma flat. So we changed my grandma flat to a small hub. And it's a place where we organize meetings, where we just talk about the topic with an interest. So we learn each other, and we can link and network with each other. There are intersections that facilitate the interaction of people, ideas, and resources. So it's good if we give possibility for these interactions and understanding of each other, stories that people tell about themselves and their ecosystem. So the more social and medium entrepreneurs communicate, So tell stories in newspapers and how they started, what are their challenges. It helps also others to understand and maybe inspires them to start their own enterprise. And the culture, Peter Drucker says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So these, and there are other entrepreneurs who add that culture eats strategy for breakfast, product and service for lunch, and all others for dinners. So norms and behaviors, how we behave, has a very, very strong effect on the resilience and the sustainability of enterprises. And so collaboration, cooperation, trust, focus on the common good. And there are more and more indicators how to measure the role of SMEs in the environment. So these factors make the ecosystem come alive by connecting all the elements together. Entrepreneurship is when you act upon opportunities and ideas and transfer them into values for others. So when I talk about enterprises, I like to use this value creation focus. So create value from value. And of course, money is a very important tool and business model is very important. But I think in the long run, we have to change mindset that entrepreneurship is about value creation and not about making money from money. So profit is important to be sustainable and money is an important tool. But the goal of entrepreneurship is to create value. And we already defined the definition of resilience, so I don't want to repeat it. But I want to underline that so when there is a hazard and we face more and more challenges and hazards in the 21st century because we are very complex and it's more and more difficult to understand the system. But when there is a change, usually the switch back is a new normal. Like when we think about water, when we boil it, then the behavior of the molecules change. So the molecules are the same. There are some elements which don't change, but how they behave, there is a change in the behavior. And we have to learn when we switch back, what is this new normal and understand it. And how we can find resilience factors, so going on micro level. And I hope this will useful learnings for you. So for example, a resilience factor is self-confidence and self-discipline. I am working at university, but I'm much more practice-oriented. So I like to work in practice and see how entrepreneurs can be sustainable. And there is a talk from Simon Sinek, and his message about Golden Circle is quite well-known and global. So it's more and more known. And his message is that start with the why. What is your purpose? So based on your strengths, what value you want to create with your enterprise? What do you believe in? Why it matters? So if you start with the why when running your enterprise and understanding, be self-aware, then that's one resilience factor. Adam Grant gives this kind of giving attitude to this, that be a giver and not a taker when you think about your enterprise. And the other question, so when you have the why, the next question is how. How is your enterprise different? What is you doing differently and better than the others? So what is your niche in the market? And maybe the easiest question to answer, what is your product or service? Okay. The next resilience factor, and I checked the time. So the next resilience factor, and I have two more, is healthy relationship. So there is a research from Google that what is the secret of the best teams in their organization, and they found that creating psychological safety is a very important issue. When we think about creative psychological safety, here are 5 points to this. One is that make it explicit priority and facilitate. So give space to everyone in your enterprise to speak up and share their knowledge. Establish norms for how failure is handled. So in a safe, psychologically safe environment, failures are okay. It's if you have to prototype, so the driver to create value, and when you prototype, the failure is there. But if a failure is part of your culture and you learn from it, then it also helps to be resilient in your firm. Create space for new ideas, even wild ones. So if it's a place for idea creation, it also helps you how to stand back and also embrace productive conflict. Conflicts are okay, but you have to handle them. And the third, and also if before the third, if you think about the 7 habits of highly effective people for Stephen Covey, then he also have this message. And it's interesting that it comes back from different big researchers and practitioners, that the first step is understanding yourself. It gives you an independence. And when you understand this, then you will notice that we are interconnected, and you can only be resilient, sustainable if you think in win-win. You first understand, then you are understood, and the last one, how to create synergy. So we live in a stakeholder economy. The supply chain was already mentioned. So you have to co-create with your customers, with your suppliers, with the government, with the civil sector. So the stakeholder economy needs more collaboration. And the last resilient factor I want to bring in is solution focus. So where you put your attention, the energy goes there. So referring to Otto Scharmer, he says this co-creative, so be solution focused in a co-creative manner. So decision-making circles develop the capacity to act from local knowledge by being aware of the cross-organizational interdependency and the aligned shared purpose. So the purpose have to be in focus. And if we focus on solutions, then the energy goes there. He also mentions this open mind, open heart, open will issue. And so that's the third resilient factor I want to bring today. So altogether, if I want to summarize the 3 resilience factors, which could help SMEs, these are: start with the why, understand yourself, and understanding your driver, bring the purpose, and be ready to ask questions as well. Create the culture. So create a psychological safety where failure is okay, where there is a collective communication, and co-create with stakeholder with a solution focus. So the good news is, as I mentioned, I will end with the good news that if you think about these resilient factors and what are the steps which you do, I think it's sustainable. You don't need, you need yourself and your colleagues to give answer to these challenges. And I think this is not, the money behind it is not too much. So that's from me, and thank you for the possibility for sharing.
Well, okay, thank you, Dr. Judit. Very insightful presentation. I got some point of view discussing about how to develop resilience, whether from the personal perspective as well as for micro and small medium enterprises. It is very interesting knowing that healthy relation is also a factor to develop resilience, right? Yes, and also you highlight about co-creative, and there is need to make a good relationship between all the stakeholders. Okay, Dr. Judit, for your information, actually this Zoom followed by more than 1,000 participants. So beside this Zoom link, also participants join via YouTube. And actually there are some questions sent it to you, but please kindly waiting to answer the question because we are going to the next speaker. Okay, so Dr. Judit, once again, many thanks for your presentation, and I'm kindly ask you to waiting and stay tuned. Thank you. Well, participants, now we are going to the third speakers today. It is very interesting topic, yeah, and we got some question that need to be answered by the speaker, but we will finish first the presentation from all our speakers. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin this third session from Prof. Tomomi Tamaki, and the material will be a viewpoint to think about the Indonesian economy after COVID-19. I would like to invite our speaker, Your Excellencies, Professor Tomomi Tamaki. Please welcome. Okay, participants, now we are joining with Prof. Tomomi Tamaki. Good morning, Mr. Tamaki.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Good
How
morning.
are you today?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I do appreciate for your willingness to join us here to provide your time between your busy schedule, of course, yeah. Okay, before you deliver the presentation, allow me to present your curriculum vitae, so participants will know more about your competencies. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Prof. Tomomi was born on 4th of August 1956 and married with 2 children. His educational background received bachelor degrees from Hitso Subashi University, Tokyo, Japan, and master degree from University of London, London School of Economics on August 1985. He also has publication. Mr. Tamaki has co-authored 2 books on China's economy, both of which were published in Japanese. A lot of work experience has handled by Prof. Tomomi as lecturer at Teikyo University, Tokyo, Japan, and also lecturer at Toyo University, Tokyo, Japan, and also a professor in Faculty of Economics in International Economy from April 2018 present. Prior to that, Mr. Tamaki also worked in Asian Development Bank, yeah, for almost 10 years, specifically as Japanese representative office, and also in Manila, Philippines. Mr. Tamaki also bring Jati in bank, yeah, principal regional economist, principal infrastructure economics, the Japan Center for International Finance, and the Japan Bank for International Cooperation in Beijing, as well in Tokyo, Japan, as the Director Environment Division and various junior and second position for such a long time. Well, okay, today, Mr. Tamaki, you will have about 25 to 30 minutes maximum to present your materials. And after that, we are going to question and answer session after the 4th speaker finishing up, deliver the presentation. Well, the screen is your Prof. Tomomi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, University Jenderal Soedirman, for inviting me to your event, International Conference on Sustainable Competitiveness Advantage today. I'm very honored to speak in front of you, though remotely. How is your life in Indonesia under the COVID-19? Very recently, the news reported travelers from countries that have successfully controlled COVID-19, fortunately, including Japan, would be allowed to visit your famous Bali. I think this is a good indication that COVID-19 situations are getting better in your country. I look forward to the normalization of your life and the economy as a whole soonest. Here in Japan, the number of people infected with COVID-19 has remarkably decreased this month. In our university, most classes are now conducted in regular face-to-face classrooms. Here, the election of members of the House of Representatives is underway, and at the end of this month, a new administration will be launched. The current Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, has just been elected early this month and is seeking again to gain the confidence of voters in this election. He hopes to win the simple majority to establish a strong administration. The new economic policy of the Prime Minister focuses on better redistribution of wealth to correct the gap between the poor and the rich. The other day, in Wakayama Prefecture, south of Osaka, an accident occurred. A water pipe breach collapsed. It was recognized Japan's infrastructure was fairly well developed, but due to aging and other factors, the redevelopment of infrastructure is putting pressure on the economy. Today, I would like to talk about Indonesian economy from a viewpoint of Japanese manufacturers by sharing some interesting findings by a JBIC survey report and consider the direction of Indonesian economy in the post-COVID-19 era. As you may know, JBIC is a Japanese government bank. The bank supports and promotes overseas activities of Japanese companies. JBIC provides long-term funding in areas such as infrastructure, facility, exports. JBIC conducts an annual survey regarding overseas business development. The latest survey, which was the 32nd, focused on 954 Japanese manufacturing companies. Japanese manufacturing companies were asked various questions. The results depict the current status and prospects of Japanese manufacturers' activities abroad. One single question being asked of Japanese manufacturers is what promising countries do they consider as direct investment destinations in the medium term? Medium term means the next 3 years or so. And looking at the top 10 countries, promising destination countries for Japanese manufacturers in the medium term, 8 out of 10 countries are Asian countries. Can you guess what they are? They are China, India, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Myanmar. Indonesia is ranked in 6th place. Indonesia is always included in the ranking. From a longer perspective, about 10 years, Indonesia ranked 5th in the latest survey. Also, Indonesia ranked 5th among small and medium enterprises. Historically, over the past 5 years, it was ranked 3rd in 2016, 5th from 2017 to 2019, and this time 6th. All of these indicates Indonesia is a very, very attractive country for Japanese manufacturers as a direct investment destination. Though our discussion today will focus on manufacturing sector, the interest of Japanese companies in Indonesia is not limited to manufacturing sector. In Indonesia, active direct investments have been recently made in the service sector by Japanese companies, such as the partnership between Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation and PT Bank Tabangan Pensiunan Nasional, and the partnership with Mitsubishi UFJ Bank, PT Bank Danamon Indonesia Tbk. On the other hand, in the same service sector, 7-Eleven, a major convenience store, has closed all its stores and withdrew due to poor business performance in 2017. Back to the manufacturing sector, why do Japanese manufacturers want to invest in Indonesia? The answers that can be seen from this JBIC survey are expectations for future growth potential of the Indonesian market and the current scale of the Indonesian market. With Indonesia's economic development and the expansion of the middle class, huge markets are emerging, and it seems there are many direct investors attracted by such markets. For example, on the number of automobile sales, Indonesia has already surpassed Thailand and has become the largest market among ASEAN countries. But if we look further into the survey results in details, there are some notable differences in reasons among Indonesia and its peer countries. For example, about 1/4 of Japanese manufacturers who think Thailand is attractive mention the existence of concentration of industry in Thailand as a reason, while only 6.3% of Japanese manufacturers say this is a reason for Indonesia. In terms of infrastructure development, 18% of Japanese companies were in favor of Thailand, while only 3% favored Indonesia. On the other hand, among the Japanese companies that consider Indonesia as promising, such issues as rising labor costs and difficulty in securing technical human resources were pointed out. Though rising labor costs may be a good thing for people employed, so taken together, Indonesia is a very attractive direct investment destination for Japanese manufacturers. Its main appeal is the size of domestic market. However, in order to do business in Indonesia, the accumulation of related industry is insufficient, and it is difficult to secure technical human resources. So let's ponder on how to interpret these findings made by JBIC survey results by looking into the Indonesian automobile industry as a case in point. I will cite the report Global Value Chains in ASEAN for the ASEAN Japan Center to guide us. Indonesia's automobile industry is the second largest industry in ASEAN and is an important industry with more than 200,000 jobs and is about 10% of Indonesia's GDP in 2017. In addition, as I said, domestic market is already the largest in ASEAN. Since the early 2010s, Indonesia has emerged as a very important production hub as it has attracted much more investment, especially from Japanese car makers. Automobile production has been internationally fragmented and is well integrated in regional and global production networks through global value chains. Depending on the country's position in the automobile value chain, value addition in exports varies across ASEAN countries. In such value chains, the automobile industry in Indonesia has seemingly not been sufficiently sophisticated. The report points out the extremely low FBA in automobile parts and component exports. Here, FBA stands for foreign value added, which indicates what part of a country's exports consists of inputs that have been produced in other countries. Since the essence of global value chains is the production in the right place, this low ratio of FBA seemingly indicates the current parts and components exports from Indonesia are only low value added products that do not require advanced technology and knowledge brought from abroad. This indication becomes more evident when compared with the value-added situation of the Thai automobile industry. Furthermore, looking at the export value of Indonesian automobile-related products, there is a large difference compared with Thai, especially since the year 2000. It seems such a problem is not unique to the automobile industry in Indonesia. Let's take a look at the report Global Value Chains in ASEAN Indonesia chapter of, again, the ASEAN Japan Center. ASEAN's upper middle income countries such as Malaysia, Thailand have driven the growth of manufacturing industries such as electric devices and automobiles, while in Indonesia, the added value of these industries are limited. While these ASEAN countries, Thailand, Malaysia, have realized the development of manufacturing sector by utilizing the production networks established by foreign companies through direct investment, Indonesia has a small degree of entry into such production networks. The share of FBA in export products as a whole is 12% in Indonesia, which is puzzlingly low compared to Malaysia, 36%, and Thailand, 31%. A low FBA means the ratio of foreign-made intermediate goods and technologies is small. And by increasing this, it is possible to increase the added value of exported products and increase the amount of domestic added value gradually. The low ratio of FBA in export products in Indonesia seemingly indicates the weakness of technological capabilities of local companies. This is a concern. Slide 16 shows trends in Indonesia's GDP growth by industry. According to this, in Indonesia, the share of relatively high-tech manufacturing industry has hardly increased since the year 2000. More than 50% of direct investment flowing to Indonesia is in the manufacturing sector. According to the JBIC survey, Indonesia is a country of interest for a wide range of Japanese industries, such as automobiles, chemicals, electrical and electronic equipment, and general machineries, as a direct investment destination. Indonesia needs not only to attract a foreign direct investment, but also to utilize foreign direct investment to increase the added value of its own industry. However, the spread of technology from foreign companies to local companies is not automatic. In the Global Innovation Index, Indonesia is the lowest compared to the other ASEAN middle-income countries, and there is no significant improvement in the past 10 years. ASEAN-Japan Center's report states most of the joint ventures with foreign capital in automobile sector are passive learners. Though economic growth is multidimensional and also each country has its own environment, but in order for middle-income country like Indonesia to move up to a high-income country, it is important in common to promote technological and managerial innovation and to improve the quality of human capital and to develop more advanced infrastructure such as information and communications technology. Among these three factors, I would like to emphasize particularly the sophistication of human capital. It is important as it is the basis for innovation. Skilled workers have the ability to learn, utilize, and apply advanced technology. The development of such human resources will help a middle-income country improve the productivity of the economy. Comparing investment on education between middle-income countries and the countries that have escaped from middle-income trap and have become high-income countries, there is a big difference in investment in higher education. There is an interesting study on the effects of human resource development. This is a comparison between developing countries in Asia and OECD member countries. Those are mostly developed countries. There are results of 3 simulations. Scenario 1 simulates the impact on economic growth in developing Asian countries if the students can reach the same number of years of schooling as the average OECD countries. The result of this simulation indicates even if the schooling years in developing countries in Asia be 11.6 years, which is the average of OECD, its effect on growth is relatively limited. Scenario 2 looks at the impact on the economies of developing countries in Asia, assuming if 85% or more students in developing Asia can obtain as high as the OECD average of 400 points or higher in mathematics and science. Here, the impact on expected economic growth rate will be higher. In Indonesia, for example, it will have the effect of raising per capita income by 54% in 2045. Scenario 3, if 80% of students can achieve a score of 400 and 15% of students can achieve a score of 600, then the effect on economic growth will be enormous. And in the case of Indonesia, per capita income in 2045 is estimated to double from 2015. The effect of improving the quality of education in Indonesia is particularly large, along with India and the Philippines, according to this result. This implies in a middle-income country like Indonesia, it is important to improve the quality of education, not just to increase the number of years that the students stay in school. The simulations so far have been derived from international tests of students at the age of 15, but some statistics says enhancement of higher education is even more important. Slide 21 looks at the level of education between middle income and high income countries. It can be seen that difference in higher education is remarkably in favor of high income countries. From this, it can be inferred for a middle income country like Indonesia, the key is to improve the quality of education and secure an educational system that will provide the skills required by the labor market. The issue of difficulty in securing technical human resources suggested by JBIC survey results should not be taken only a mere issue pointed out by Japanese investors, but for Indonesia to develop and enhance its economic growth in general. Indonesia has the fourth largest population in the world, and its majority are under the age of 30. Indonesia is already the 10th largest economy in the world and is blessed with natural resources. We Japanese, experiencing the stagnant economy for a long period of time and facing the aging demography, really envy Indonesia. JBIC survey results introduced today show Indonesia has always been one of the promising investment destinations for Japanese manufacturers. Japanese manufacturers in all major sectors of automobile, electronic equipment, chemistry, and general machinery consider Indonesia as a prospect foreign direct investment destination. In a recent article in The Economist magazine, the Vietnamese economy has been featured. Vietnam has been one of the fastest growing countries in the last 30 years, and its openness to trade and investment is a major factor. Vietnam wishes to move up to a high-income country by 2045. To attain it, Vietnam must maintain an annual economic growth rate of 7%. Vietnam's economic growth to date has been driven by high level of foreign direct investment. The growth of exports of foreign companies was 422%, while the export of Vietnam's local enterprises have grown by only 132% over the past decade. But the article says, in order to maintain the country's high economic growth in the future, it's necessary to promote the growth of local companies. This may also apply to Indonesia, though the characteristics of the two economies are different. Indonesia's local companies need to utilize the opportunities provided by direct investors from abroad with high technology, management skills, and actively participate in supply chains. In this context, I've heard second Jokowi administration has set the development of human resources and the development of manufacturing industry as a priority. This is a good news. More recent reports indicate Indonesia has one of the highest number of charging stations per electric vehicle in the world, and Indonesia plans to increase up to 2,400 charging stations and 10,000 battery exchanges by 2025. By 2030, it plans to run more than 2 million electric vehicles and more than 13 million electric motorcycles with more than 31,000 charging stations. It is also trying to become a major storage battery producing country by utilizing nickel resources. This is another very encouraging news. Lastly, how does COVID-19 affect the economy in the future? We are not sure yet. However, JBIC survey suggests how Japanese manufacturers should respond after COVID-19. The keyword is resilience, which is today's theme. How will Japanese manufacturers operating overseas try to achieve resilience in their supply chains? Two things can be pointed out, as these may affect Indonesia's local enterprises. First, Japanese manufacturers are considering to increase the investment for automation and headcount reduction. And second, they will increase local procurement and local sales. These points have deep implication for Indonesia's local companies. The low value added areas will be increasingly automated, and as a result, employment opportunities in such areas will be diminishing. On the other hand, as the localization of foreign affiliated companies expand, local engineers, local managers will have more opportunities. This indicates if Indonesia wants to utilize direct investment to promote employment and economic growth under a new environment of post-COVID-19 era, it must move towards a higher level of human resources. We have seen Indonesia is particularly effective in economic growth by investing on human resource development, improving the quality of education, and striving to develop human resources, especially required in the labor market. If the influence of COVID-19 pandemic causes direct investment companies to review their supply chains and promote more localization, the human resources will become increasingly important. Indonesia has a huge domestic market, but if we do not develop human resources and promote innovation, we will not be able to increase the added value of local companies, and will not be able to achieve an increased productivity commensurate with the increase in wages. Having discussed above, I have a small concern. The recent labor statistics of Indonesia show higher school dropout rates, probably due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to ask for a special consideration to support those who are unable to continue attending school due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Prof. Tomomi, for presenting your delightful information. And it is very insightful, and I got the information that human and manufacturers development in Indonesia is in the right direction to achieve the further economic growth. Yeah, and also from your explanation, we also knew that Indonesia is a prospective country for manufacturing sector. Okay, thank you, Prof. Tomomi. And kindly, I ask you to waiting for a moment because we're still waiting for the question and answer session. But prior to that, we have to finish the fourth speaker presentation first. Thank you, Prof. Tomomi, for waiting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to move to our last, but exactly not least speaker. And we are welcoming our last speaker here. Let me invite His Excellencies, Dr. Abdul Kholik. Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, good afternoon, Dr. Kholik.
Hello, Assalamualaikum, Sugeng Enjing.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, thank you for joining us in this webinar in plenary session, and you become the fourth speaker. And before you deliver your presentation, allow me to introduce you to our participants, because tak kenal maka tak sayang. Okay, I will present Dr. Abdul Kholik curriculum vitae. He was born in Cilacap at 19th of July, 1968. His educational background is got undergraduate degree from Faculty of Law Unsud Purwokerto in 1993. So he is our alumni from Unsud. Yeah, it is very proud to have him. Okay, and Dr. Abdul Kholik attend postgraduate in FISIP, University of Indonesia, and received his doctoral degree in law from Fakultas Hukum Unisula, Semarang, exactly on 2016. His work experience is as expert staff in DPR RI from 2015 to 2019, and member of DPD RI in 2019 present, as a Vice Chairman of Committee 1 and Deputy Chairperson of the MPR RI Review Board. He also have a lot of organizational experience, but it's only two being highlighted here as Head of Research and Development, Indonesian Parliamentary Expertise Association, and Vice Secretary of Law Commission and Regulation, Indonesia Ulama Council, or MUI, from 2015 until 2020. So Dr. Abdul Kholik today will share his point of view with the materials entitled Problematic Development of Small Medium Enterprises, or SME, in Central Java. We are very proud to have you here, and right now, screen over to you, Dr. Kholik.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon for all participants, and of course, especially for the speaker, Prof. Tamaki, Dr. Judit, and Professor Pan. Thank you for your presentation. And now maybe I will give a presentation specific about Indonesia, especially in Central Java. Maybe I will share screen. I need share screen from my computer, maybe, please. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, my presentation is about the problem of small medium enterprise in Central Java. First, we know after the pandemic, many countries, including Indonesia, face a serious problem in economic. In national level, the economic growth decreased from about 50% to minus 2.7%. And in Central Java also like that in 5 years, consistently grow at 5%, but when the pandemic, the growth in Central Java only minus to 5%. It's meant a very seriously pandemic in Indonesia, especially in Central Java. And then how about the export in Central Java? All maybe at $756 million. And in January 2020, about presentation, it dominated by processing industry, 96%, oil and gas 2.4%, agriculture 1 and 5%, and mine and others 0.1%. It means that Central Java is one the province gets benefit from the situation crisis because many manufacture industry already moved from the Jakarta city go to the Central Java. It's many industry relocated to Central Java, but all in the pandemic also decreased. Let's see. I want to description about the Central Java in 3 regions. Maybe it's need to more specific description because Central Java is the big province in Indonesia, you know. Then Central Java have a big population too. 36.3 million people in Central Java. It means that Central Java, if compared with many countries, the population is bigger. Yeah? There are 3 regions is in the Central Java, North, East, and South, or we call in Indonesia is Jasela. Jasela is the South Central Java. Soedirman University is in south of Central Java. How about the economic growth in Central Java between 3 regions, between North, East, and South? In North, the economic growth is 5.9%, and in East 5.1%, and in South 4.4%. It means that there are serious gap between the region, especially between North and South in Central Java. And then it's about the economic contribution between 3 regions. Again, the south of Central Java only contribute 20%, and North and the East is more about 38 and 40%. It means South Central Java is had the problem with the economic growth and managing. it's about the agriculture contribution in Central Java, and it means that the contribution from the region in Central Java still south is lower than north and also than east. It's about the small, medium enterprise in Java. It's about 170 from the 2018 and until 2021, always grow until now, and the sector is 63% is non-agriculture, and agriculture is 28%, and trading 58%, and service 20%. It's about the SMEs in Jasela from the all in Central Java. Only 33% allocated in South Central Java, and only contribute 10%. And all about Jasela is very small. So it's need specific policy maybe. Then I will show about a special SME in Indonesia. We call it Mekar. Mekar is Indonesian language. Maybe is something like a blooming flower. Yeah. Mekar in Indonesia have participant or customer about 10 million. Maybe we can compare it with the Bangladesh, something like Grameen Bank. But it's very bigger, very big potential. How about in Central Java? We have 1,346,000, and no, we always make Mekar member or the getting better, and some of them have already moving to the next level. It's about the 67,000. The Mekar is very popular in Indonesia, and it's especially in the rural because it is a special policy to empowering the people in the rural, and already help many people to get income and also to get the others benefit. Yes, this is the condition SMEs in Jasela. Many of them not using the computer, and only 5% are using the computer. And also 92% not partnership, and only 7% have partnership. I mean, using the bank and the others. And from the actor, 90% not using computer, and from the only 90% using the internet. It means still need a special treatment to promote and to make the SME in Central Java getting better. And how about the educational background? Yeah, we know that more of only in elementary level, and the Kholik only 7%, and most of them junior and senior high school. Yes, it is the SMEs in Central Java. Many problem faces. Some of them is about the bureaucracy, fuel and energy, labor, infrastructure, other raw material, marketing, capital, and competition. We know from the data that the capital problem and marketing is the biggest problem. And there is some step needed to the SME development. First, we need the credit policy with simple dissemination credit application procedure, various training and training upgrade and technological literacy for SMEs, so as to increase production effectiveness and be able to enter the digital market. And then improving the quality of physical and non-physical infrastructure. And the last one is the policy support to the development of the promotion and domestic and export. Yeah, thank you for the all participants and all speaker. That my presentation. It may be a simple presentation, but I hope it can complete the other presentation because it's very specific in the Indonesia, especially Central Java. And for the conclusion, we need many develop program consistently from the transformation, consistently, and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Abdul Kholik, for your presentation. It is interesting and make our topic so comprehensive, because previously the speakers from academician perspective, and you make this so perfect because share us with your point of view from the government perspective, specifically discussing about the small medium enterprises problem in southern Java, right? In Central Java, and specifically in Jasela, means Jawa Tengah Selatan. Is that right?
Yes.
Or southern Java, yeah. Okay, once again, thank you, Dr. Abdul Kholik, and ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to the second session in this plenary, and I would like to invite participation from the audience to raise the question. But actually, we received many questions in the chat room. Unfortunately, we only have a limit time, so maybe not all the questions will be answered by the speakers, and allow me to choose some participants. And previously, we also have a participant that would like to ask directly to one of our speakers. Let me call Najila. Previously, she raise a hand to raise a question. Okay. Well, okay. So because Najila is cannot be connected, so I would like to read some question that has been dropped in the chat room. And I will kindly invite again our speakers. Those are Mr. Tamaki, Prof. Pan, Dr. Judit, and Dr. Abdul Kholik. Here are some questions. Okay, please allow me to read the question. Yeah, the first question come from Fakhrizal. Yeah, from Lok Sumawe. Oh yeah, it is such an honor for us, yeah, because you come from very far from our city, yeah, from Sumatra. Okay, it is almost the end of Indonesia. Okay, the question from Fakhrizal, development from Lok Sumawe Development Planning Board. The question are addressed to Mr. Panwehwa. The question are as follows. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic impact, a number of countries have recognized trade patterns with partner countries. The question is, what steps need to be taken by small-medium enterprises so that the products produced by small-medium enterprises are able to go global? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to answer these questions. Okay, in fact, that the small medium-sized enterprises, when they try to go internationalizations, okay, they have two very different paths. Okay, one is more radical one is more incremental. Actually, both methods, okay, they have a different scholars. They argues, okay, incremental. Some argues that the radicals is better. Okay, so from my perspective, I think that there are many different ways to go internationalizations. Okay, but the key is that you have to know what is your comparative advantages, what is the particular good for your own companies. Okay, this is another very interesting question talking about the vegans, okay, vegetarian artificial products. Okay, I would like to take one example to answer this. Okay, because here by my university, my university is located in a very agriculture county, and where there are a lot of the food processing companies around us. Okay, some of them they are small medium-sized enterprises, and there are two major artificial vegan meat producer in Taiwan. They are all not far from our university. Okay, actually, their key export countries one is in China, the other one is in Vietnam, and the other rest of the Southeast Asian countries. Okay, because we have this kind of comparative advantages, because in Taiwan there are a lot of the people for religious reasons. They are vegetarian, they are vegan food eaters. Okay, so for a very long period of time, okay, Taiwan, for example, like the traditional Chinese tofu or bean curd, it is always very popular in Taiwan. So we already produce some very good artificial meats, okay, particularly like a tofu or bean curds, okay, in Taiwan. This is our advantages, okay, comparative advantages, okay. And then they go to American markets, okay. It's very radical to go American, so they face a very important key competitors. I don't know if you understand. There's the company called Beyond Meat. Okay, Beyond Meat is a very famous artificial meat producer in the United States. Okay, because I was the consultant to these vegan meat companies in Taiwan. So they give me a trial about the vegan meats produced by the Beyond Meats companies. Okay, and I found that at the first beginning, our goods is better compared to Beyond Meats. But the beyond meats, they have a higher speed of the technology advancement. Okay, they invest a lot of money in R&D, in the PhD human resource. Okay, they even try to imitate the blood flavors. Okay, the real meat flavors. Okay, so from my perspective, yes, we have advantages, but when we go to, we have no problem in Taiwan and in the Southeast Asia. But once we are more radical to go to America, we are encounter the top competitors in the US markets. Okay, so sometimes I feel the small and medium-sized enterprises, first of all, we have to be based on our comparative advantages to develop our capability. Very first beginning more incremental way, then you can jump up, okay, to a much more radical way to challenge to the key competitors. Okay, you benchmark the best in the world, try to make yourself, okay, become as capable as them. Okay, I think that's my answer. Actually, there's no formality for that. Okay, thank you very much.
Hopefully, Mas Fakhrudin, you got the explanation from Prof. Pan clearly, yeah? Thank you once again, Prof. Pan, and we are continuing with the next question. This question is addressed to Dr. Judit. Here is a question from one of student of University of Debrecen, from Askarian Rafinda. The question is related to the small medium enterprises startup. It will be interesting if UNSUD could collaborate and learn about the incubation business and coaching method that Team Academy doing in Debrecen, like what you did in Debrecen. So in UNSUD, we have similar program, but could be more beneficial if we could enhance the program by benchmarking from Team Academy, as it is proven has real results. Maybe you, Dr. Judit, could promote to us about the Team Academy here. Thank you.
Thank you for the question and for the invitation as well. Yes, it was in 2010 when our university started to work with Finnish education model. And it also goes for the question how to create human and social capital. The learning method, they have a kind of four-wheel driver. And I think for me, the most important learning was that with this coach mindset, we give higher responsibility to the hand of the student. They start their learning. One driver of this four-wheel driving of learning is creating a learning contract. So it's important that students, when they start their studies, so even when they come to a class, you can ask, okay, what are your goals with learning about economics, let's say, where you would like to use it, where are you now, and what are the steps you can do. Maybe I say my students, maybe you get me and you don't like my teaching or education style. What other possibilities you have to learn about economics? So if you give this responsibility to them and they write a learning contract, and then from semester to semester, they reflect what went well, what went wrong, what they have learned. So reflection is also very important. So that's one driver. And then the other driver is learning by doing. So in Team Academy, they run their own enterprises. So they have a real connection to practice, so they can put the theory into practice. Theory is also an important driver. Well, you can use some tools from Team Academy in everyday education as well. So for example, looking for books. And in Team Academy, the message about reading theory is that when you start to read and it's something which don't call your attention, that you can learn that not this is the field you have a deep interest in, and then you can look for another book or journal or article or even a TED talk, and try to find where is your main interest and learn more and more in that field. And so the learning contract, the theory from the book, the learning by doing, and the fourth, which is very important and also goes to one of the questions that start to dialogue. So students learn in open dialogue when they sit in a circle and every idea is welcome. So it also goes to this psychological safety, that you can share what you have in mind and we can understand each other. So be ready to understand and then be ready to share your knowledge to be understood. So learning dialogue is very important because even to give answers to the challenges that SMEs are stopped or bankrupt, it also needs a dialogue between civil sector, between business sector, and between government. So we are living in a very complex world, and you cannot give an answer alone. And this learning to run dialogue, it helps students in the long run when they have their own enterprise or just to be an employee, how to be proactive, how to share the learning on their own level in the enterprise with the owner, because this is the secret for the future, I think. I don't know if it was an answer to the question. I'm happy to share more if it's needed.
So maybe Mas Askarian can follow up to have a collaboration or maybe with memo of understanding or maybe Dr. Judit have special occasion to share with us about your experience in supporting student in entrepreneurship maybe or small medium enterprises. Okay, and the committee told me there is another question from Hannah for you to Dr. Judit to be answered. The question is, how to develop programs or activities to create human capital and social resources readiness? Dr. Judit.
Yeah, it also goes back to the earlier answer, but if I have to focus more on this, then maybe empowerment. So when you work with students, then try to help them to find their strengths and give feedback to them. If they make failure, then okay, what they can learn from that. So give time for reflection, that and have an understanding of their self-responsibility. So if something not goes well, then how they can, what they personal agency can develop and what they could do for themselves. That's one issue. Leading by example. So even as an educator, when I don't know something or I even can make mistakes and be ready to be there that yes, I made a mistake, or well, I cannot answer to this question because it goes beyond my knowledge. So it's also this kind of safe environment that it's okay to make failure, what we can learn from it, or that also goes for there. And if you create the norms with the students, sometimes if we make a kind of loser frame, for example, at the beginning of the semesters, I'm happy to create even the requirements together with the students. So what fits best for them, for their learning. Sometimes this is a question which they are surprised about because usually they get a frame. So this is what you have to follow. But if you create an environment where you play together, that could be useful. So I think this kind of psychological safety, which is useful in Google Teams, also useful at university.
Human capital and social resources. can be start from when they become a student in undergraduate. Do you agree with that, Dr. Judit?
I think it's a lifelong learning. So yeah, even in kindergarten, primary school, depending on their age. Of course, when they become older at university, and this kind of, it's called pedagogy, this self-managed learning, I think it's more and more important. So giving this responsibility to their hand.
Okay, I get it. So hopefully, Hannah, you can understand the explanation or answer from Dr. Judit. Thank you, Dr. Judit, for answering these two questions. And allow me to move to another question. Well, the third question is addressed to Prof. Tomomi. Allow me to read the question. The question's from Dipta. So, Prof. Tomomi, the question is, what is Japan regulation government to improve small medium enterprises business performance? Can we compare small medium enterprises in Japan and Indonesia? Because in developed countries as Japan, business is relatively well organized, and in developing countries like Indonesia, business is dominated with not organized business. So, Mr. Tamaki, would you mind to answer the question? Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's mutual.
Is it clear?
Thank you very much for the question.
Okay.
I try to answer. The important thing is, I think the demand-driven development for SMEs. And in case of Japan, there are many, corporate groups. So for the SMEs, what should be done by them are clearly, relatively clearly, defined. Then in the context of SMEs in Indonesia, I think as I discussed in my speech, most of the SMEs are passive learners. Maybe we want to change a little bit about this attitude, then from passive learners to proactive or learners. Then my discussion focused. It's a very good, timing for SMEs in Indonesia, because if we focus on Japanese, foreign direct investors, they want to localize as much as possible the operations within the group. So maybe demand should exist there. Therefore, if you can take such opportunities, maybe they have more opportunities to develop in SMEs in Indonesia, because they are a kind of replacement of what SMEs in Japan, Japanese SMEs was doing, can be done by Indonesian SMEs. That's one possible thing under the post-COVID-19 era. That's my suggestion for SMEs in Indonesia.
Tomomi, so it is possible for SMEs in Indonesia to follow what did by SMEs in Japan. Is that right, Prof? Yeah, okay, so maybe we have to learn much from SMEs in Japan, yeah? Okay. The committee or the house explained to me that we still have one question. So the operator, yeah. Okay, Prof. Tomomi, here is the question addressed to you. With the growing presence of Korean and China automotive industry in Indonesia, will the Japanese automakers will invest more in Indonesia? And how to enable related local micro, small, medium enterprises to participate in the supply chain? The question from Mr. Pribadi Santoso from Bank Indonesia, Central Java. Prof. Tomomi.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. I think, honestly speaking, it's very difficult for independent SME to do this. However, if you can form a kind of groups to collect information from the Japanese automobile makers, and or government may assist to share the information between Japanese automobile makers and local SMEs. Maybe their accessibility of SMEs in Indonesia to the demand of Japanese companies might be much easier. So I think the kind of government or local government role is important. With their help, maybe SME in Indonesia may have a chance to participate in the local supply chains established by Japanese car makers. That's one suggestion from my side.
Still, it is possible for SMEs to get participation in automotive industry, but it needs to support by the government.
I think that's a point, because many Japanese small SMEs may not be able to make investment in Indonesia on behalf. Maybe SMEs in local Indonesian companies have opportunities to be participating in the supply chain. But the opportunities are very difficult to identify for individual company. Therefore, some kind of information sharing system or dissemination system should be existing with the help of some public support. That's my point.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And allow me to move to the next question, Prof. Tomomi. Okay, it could be the last question for Dr. Abdul Kholik, the question raised by Raihan. So, Dr. Kholik, the question is, what efforts or policies that have taken by the government as a form of support for micro, small, medium enterprises in facing this disruption era? Dr. Abdul Kholik, screen is yours to answer the question.
Thank you for the question, Raihan. We know Indonesia have potential problem. Mr. Prof. Tomomi said very prospective and attractive country, and we have many market, a big market, especially in recently we have the e-commerce and digital marketing grew up very increasingly, and then it is the challenge for us. So many policy already done in Indonesia. The Ministry of the SME already done many policy also, and then government in province and local government in city, they have to collaborate and each other to promote to rising the SMA. And you can show from the data, many of the SMEs in Indonesia is not a good literation with the technology and the internet. It needs more specific policy to help them, and also many university, campus, and then the expert also need to support the program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Dr. Abdul Kholik. Ladies and gentlemen, and finally we approach the end of the session. Actually, there is left some questions, but because of time limitation, we have to end this plenary session. And it is such a great an honor for me to join this international webinar. And very grateful because today we can listen some excellent speech and got some interesting points of view from our distinguished speaker. And to our distinguished speaker, the committee would like to share e-certification for all of you as our distinguished speaker. Okay, so the host will share the e-certification. Yeah, okay. So hopefully you are willing to accept our appreciation that shown by this certification for all the speakers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished all speakers, we come to the end of the session, but previously I will make some conclusion remark that this triple disruption gives small medium enterprises greater challenge, and we believe that resilience become a critical skill to deal with this new normal condition. Small medium enterprises can improve their resiliences by developing their human and social capital, and certainly it needs supported by good government settings in collaboration. Partnership among different stakeholders, universities, private sector should be strengthened. Indonesia's government now is in the direction to achieve future economic growth, and digital platforms should be further promoted to accelerate economic activities and more effective. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like once again say many thanks to our distinguished speakers for making time in your busy schedule to join us in this international webinar to share your valuable, insightful information and knowledge. And also to all participants that showing your enthusiasm in following this event. Wish you all a pleasant day. Thanks to active participants, and I apologize if any inconvenience. Thank you very much, and big applause for all of us, specifically for our distinguished speakers. I give screen back to our MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Dr. Siti Zulaiha Wulandari for moderating the discussion. Coming up for the next segment is photo session. I kindly ask to all speaker and moderator to be standby and be prepared to turn on the camera. The Honorable Professor Tomomi Tamaki, the Honorable Professor Panwehwa, the Honorable Dr. Judit Katonane Kovacs, and the Honorable Dr. Abdul SH M.Si, with moderator Dr. Siti Zulaiha Wulandari. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the agendas we have presented to you this morning as we have finished our international conference. Coming up to the last session is closing, but for information, we are going to have a call for paper session. For those who join call for paper session, please be noted our session will be start at 1 p.m. After the break, you can proceed to your presentation room. Thank you very much for your attention. Good afternoon.
Recording stopped.